2 days, sometimes three, sometimes four. Full days, 8 hours of teams, 50 to 150, sometimes even more. Plan what they're going to work on for the next 90 days. And at 4 p.m., by 4 p.m. on day one, everybody just wants to go home. Sound familiar? All right, let's do this. Welcome back to Desperate Radio, where we talk about why work doesn't work. As always, I am Haas, your host. I am an Agile coach, a frustrated Agile coach of seeing good Agile, but bad Agile, ugly Agile, and overall just Agile theater that just doesn't make any sense. I often say Agile is not broken, we are, and I'm here to tell you why we are broken. Let's talk about today's episode. The PI planning. Why is PI planning so painful? Because it is. I've been to some PI planning that are just horrible. I've also been to PI planning that are just wonderful. Truth be told, the in-person PI planning is a lot better than the virtual one. That's not to say you can't make PI planning virtually fun. I've done it before. A lot of my friends have done it before. But some people just lack that showmanship, I guess. So let's talk about why is PI planning is often a pain. Because of bad practices. Surprise. Imagine teams showing up to something that they're going to plan for the next 90 days, but they don't have their backlogs ready. They don't have their definition of ready. A definition of ready of anything that you're going to work on is basically saying, in order for me to start working on this, how do I know that there are things that I need to complete? They don't have their definition of done ready. They haven't even agreed on what the definition of done. How do I know this thing I'm delivering is actually done? How? You should probably have an idea of what that is. You should have an idea of what you want to complete in the next 90 days. You should probably have an idea what your business objectives are. What does the business want to deliver? What is the business meant to deliver in the next 90 days? The rest of the year. It's interesting to me that some PI planning that I go to, some dependencies show up right in the event itself, during PI planning. Not before, during. And then as a team, as an art, we have to find solutions at that time and takes away from other dependencies that are actually going to show up later. It's really interesting to me how I've seen some teams where dependencies show up literally during PI planning, which they should have identified them before. Maybe even risk. I'm not saying dependencies and risk are not going to show up during PI planning, because as you're sitting there and as you're talking to people and as you're just thinking about things, and you're talking through the solutions that you're trying to deliver, at that point, other dependencies should show up and additional risks. But you should come to this PI planning with some preparation. And I already talked about this in the last episode. The confidence vote is nothing but theater. Literally. It just, everybody puts up 4s and 5s. I've had people that put up ones or zeros as a joke, but in my entire years of doing PI planning or witnessing PI planning or facilitating PI planning, I've seen people put up, I haven't seen a single person put up a 1. I've seen maybe a couple of people put up 2 and 3, and that's it. Everybody always does 4s and 5s. I've never seen anybody put up a 1. Never. One of the things that I actually don't like about PI planning is the fact that the problem solving traditionally takes place at the end of the 2 days. And that is just exhausting. And don't even get me started on the management review and problem solving on the most exhausting day after day 1. Whether you're doing remotely, virtually, or traveling to do it, You got all these people getting together and they've been sitting there all day, and management is supposed to be sitting there listening to everybody, watching everything. And then you get them to do management review and problem solving on the same day. Hey, by the way, have been some safe fellows and safe experts and people that have been doing this for quite some time. They've actually been pushing back on this and saying like, hey, let's figure out a better way to do this. And this is why, as an ASPC, an advanced safe practice consultant, we've been told at the beginning of our class that, hey, by the way, guess what? You get to customize safe now. But I will tell you the same thing that I told my instructor that day. Good deal. I've been customizing safe for 5 years now. So that's why I always say frameworks are supposed to work for you, not the other way around. I've been customizing safe. I've been customizing the way we do work, the way we do Agile. I understand everything that works in Agile. I understand the importance of PI planning, problem solving, management review, vote of I understand everything. And I also understand that not everybody is willing to spend 16 years of their life to become subject matter expert in this field like I have. And that's why people like me exist. So I can help bridge the gap between your lack of knowledge in this field so you can continue doing what you're really good at, whether that be a product owner, product manager, program manager, project manager, engineer, developer, architecture. And I help guide you to do your work in an Agile space. But that's not just me. Scrum Masters are supposed to help with that too. RTEs are supposed to help with that too. I want to tell you about one of my most chaotic PI planning experiences. One of them that first comes to mind is one that I did at a startup. I think there was literally the entire company had like maybe 70 to 80 people. And I'm going to say 40 of them worked in the software delivery team. And I did PI planning. And it took us 2 hours. By no means whatsoever was it a true PI planning to the core of what it's meant to deliver. But you know what? At that time, I didn't care. Until today, I still tell you, I don't care. Because all I did was just set a tone, plant a seed, build a baseline of saying, this is where we are right now and we need to grow from there. Did it have business objectives? Absolutely not. Not one single person in that room knew even what a business objective was. As a matter of fact, I think we had one product owner who was not a very good product owner. So wouldn't know what a business objective was. Everybody that was planning something was either an engineer or an architect. And that was good enough for me to say, this is a baseline. And from there, I put together a list of things that we need to have for the next PI planning, and we work towards that. Full disclosure, I was only there for a very short time because it was a startup and it went under. And it wasn't because of my practices, but it was their practices that have nothing to do with Agile process. It was just some, a startup that didn't go too far. That's all. That's one really ugly way of doing PI planning. And that's okay, as long as you learn that it's not supposed to look like that, and don't go back and do it again the next PI planning and say, this worked great. Let's continue doing that. And you're not learning. You're just doing yourself a disservice, and you're really shooting yourself in the foot by doing that. But make sure you understand what it is that you need to do to get better at. One of the other ones that I've been a part of that was ugly, that I was just there witnessing, and I was just there kind of taking in, seeing what's happening. This one stands out to me because it really bothers me. And I often say, yes, you can customize safe, you can customize Agile to work for you the way it's supposed to. But folks, not like this. Not like this at all. When you have people coming into a PI planning and they're not prepared because they've been working so hard and around the clock, burning the candle on both ends, and they come to the PI planning and they see a feature. A feature is something that normally takes a full PI, a full 90 days to implement. And they say, we're not sure what needs to be built here, so let's create something called a spike. So a spike is meant to be a research item. It should take you about 2 to 3 days to identify what you need to do to work on that user story. A user story is sub work of a feature. A user story should be completed in 2 to 3 days. A feature should be completed in a full PI, 90 days, 6 to 8 weeks. A feature should have multiple sub-user stories that make up that feature that could be completed in a single sprint across the span of 6 to 8 weeks. That's how that works. In proper Agile and Safe and Scrum and whatever other framework you can think of, a spike should be a research item for something that you need to research to figure out how to do something, just as the work is moving along, and it should take no longer than 2 days. If it takes longer than 2 days, you say, we're done with this story. We can't really work on it. We've overcommitted to something that we didn't understand. Let's take it out and let's make sure that we learn from this and continue moving forward. But you have to communicate to the business and everybody else involved that, like, hey, we made a mistake. It's meant to be a top outlier. It doesn't mean that by no means whatsoever should your entire sprint or your entire PI be filled with spikes. That's not how that works. A team that I was witnessing, they have committed to, I'm going to say 4 features in a single PI, meaning that they're going to deliver 4 features in 90 days. Each one of those features takes about 90 days to complete. Each one of those features should have a subset of a multitude of user stories that they're going to complete and deliver every 2 weeks. Out of those 4 features, they've decided that there's not enough information on that feature to deliver at the end of the 90 days properly. So they're going to create something called a spike feature. That's not something that is industry standard. In the last episode, I talked about folks working around restrictions to deliver vanity metrics. And this is exactly one of those scenarios where people are creating a full 90-day research item to deliver on the work that they committed to deliver in the same time frame. Sometimes I feel like I'm in the twilight zone. Like, those are people that are certified, people who have gone through workshops, classes, worked in Agile and Safe environments before, and to them, this is normal. Instead of saying, why are we committing to something that's incomplete, that does not have the information that we need to work on it? Why am I committing to that? Why am I committing myself to something that I know I'm not going to deliver? Again, Agile theater. By the way, I feel like this is probably a good time to remind everyone why I call the show Dead Sprint Radio. Why do I have something called Dead Sprint Radio? I'm a frustrated Agile expert who have seen good, bad, and ugly Agile. And what I'm telling you right now, the story that I just explained is one of the worst examples of bad Agile, or the best example of bad Agile. It is something like that. If you're working on something just for the sake of saying that you're calling it Agile and you're really not delivering and you're not following good practices and you're just going through the status quo of having stand-ups and retrospectives that don't go anywhere and don't improve the quality of the work that you're doing, you're just in a dead sprint. There's so much bad Agile out there. That's why we have a show called Dead Sprint Radio. Wake up. Fix it. You can. You are able to fix it. You can fix it. Please don't let other convince you that you. I get so frustrated with how easy it is, and maybe because I'm an expert in what I do, maybe because I've been doing what I do for a while, but I get so frustrated when I see folks just do simple things that can be fixed and just say, we're not going to fix it. Why aren't you able to ask a question like, how can we get this feature ready? Why are we committing to a feature or a user story that's not ready? That's like eating a half-cooked pie, but still doughy. The inside is not fully cooked. Why? You can't be that hungry. Surely there's something else that you can find to eat. Yes, business wants you to deliver something. And I get that. I've been there. But unless you couple of episodes ago, I said, unless you speak to your leaders and talk to them in their language for them to understand what is needed, they're not going to give you what you want. If you continue to burn the candle on both ends and just deliver, and then burn out yourself and the rest of your team, and then you have high turnover, and the leadership is going to look at this like, hey, they're delivering, they're not complaining. So, I mean, this has become a toxic situation where you are getting burned out, your leadership is getting burned out, and you're both are just in this endless cycle of, well, that's the best we can do. No, you can do better. You can do better. The bar is so low that you can do better. I promise you. Your next PI planning should focus, at the very least, on the following 3 dimensions: organizational, content, logistics. Most organizations focus only on the logistics and they forget everything else. Pre-PI planning is not optional. It's where the real work happens. It's where the real work begins. I said earlier, I am one of the people that understand why we need to do everything in Agile. In SAFe, there is something called an IP sprint, an innovation and planning sprint. It is the last sprint in that 90-day period. You're supposed to use it for innovation and planning. The work does decrease, as meaning the work that you deliver out to the customer, to the end user, does decrease a little bit. But that's okay, because in that time, you're innovating on newer, better ways of delivering, but you're also planning your next 90 days. Use that time to plan. I've worked with organizations who said, we innovate and plan throughout the entire 90 days. No, you don't. Talk is cheap. If you don't have someone that's following through on this and you're saying, as a standard, we just plan as we go along, you don't. I'm telling you, you don't. You're not structured enough. You're not disciplined enough. You're not expert enough for you to make that decision on your behalf and the rest of your team's behalf. And that's why when those teams come to PI planning, they're not prepared. That's why they have a feature size spike that's supposed to be only 2 to 3 days, but they're using 90 days to explore what needs done on the work they committed to be delivered at the end of the 90 days, which, by the way, is going to lead to another carryover, which, by the way, is going to lead to loss of ROI, which, by the way, is going to lead to customer dissatisfaction. You can do better. You can do so much better. What does content ready actually means? It means that the features are refined for the teams to plan against. Yes, they can ask questions. We're not saying that teams cannot ask questions, but it should be refined well enough for the team to understand what needs to be delivered, when, how does the end user benefit from it, so they need to plan against it. A vision that's concrete, not inspirational. And RTEs, do me a favor. You work with your Scrum Masters. You have your Scrum Masters checking, your Scrum of Scrum sync, your coaches sync. Work with them. Try to collect those confidence votes early on, just to get a feel for how everybody is doing. Because as RTEs, you should be able to get an idea of if this is going well or not, and you can start raising alarms early on. Do not wait till the end of day 1 or even day 2 for you to see that the teams are not because, by the way, when they're in a room of 50 to 150 people, it's a lot harder for some folks to say how they really feel. When it's between their own team and their own peers, it's a lot easier for them to be honest. So lean on your Scrum Masters and check in with your teams and see if you can get some of those metrics early on, some of those confidence votes early on. It's okay if they're at 1s or 0s. It's okay, but it's better to identify those early than identify them too late or not even identify them at all. I'm going to ask you to do one thing for me. This is for everybody out there. Just one move. Do one move. Next time before your PI planning, run a 90-minute fake PI planning. Just go through the motion of how to go through PI planning so you can start addressing the things. Think of it as a dress rehearsal for the actual PI planning. Not just the readiness. Push back. RTEs, Scrum Masters, product owners, push back on things that don't seem right to you. You know what doesn't seem right. I or another executive or another um, agile expert or coach, they can do that for you. You're the subject matter experts of what you're working on and the teams that you're working with. If something doesn't sound right to you, push back. Run a 90-minute pre-alignment check with your RTEs, your product team, your architects, and that's it. That's it. Like, don't involve everybody else, not the rest of the engineers, not the rest of the product, just a few, just product managers, RTE, and architects. Just run through it. Okay. It doesn't need to involve everybody. It doesn't even need to involve leadership. Just run through it. Think of it as a dress rehearsal. That's all I'm asking. And see what comes up so you can start being prepared for it. Folks, if I said it 100 times, I'll say it 1,000 more and maybe even 1,000 more times after that. Agile is not broken. We are. And PI planning is where that shows at scale. And that's what the next U fixes. PI planning, facilitation, and readiness coaching is one of the highest value things that the next U offers. So be sure to check out the link below to find out more how you can sign up for the next U and learn more. And if you want a link to a PI readiness checklist, check the notes below. There'll be a link there for you. All right, that'll do it for us today. Thank you again for listening. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you found this helpful. Sorry, my frustration sometimes shows up is because I know we can fix broken Agile, folks. I know we can fix it. I know we can fix it. And I know you can. I believe in everybody out there that's been certified, trained, working in Agile. I know you can fix it. I believe in you. And I just need you to believe in yourself. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. Share this with somebody that might benefit from listening to it or wants to argue with it. I don't know, perhaps. And if you have something to say or if you'd like to be part of the show, comment below and I'll make sure I connect with you. And if you have a horror story about PA planning, please do share it. I'd love to either bring you on the show to talk about it or even just talk about it if you give me permission. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Haas, and this is Dead Sprint Radio.